says recording.
Perfect. Well, thank you everyone for having me as a guest today. My name is Jamie Richter. You've probably also seen, I still have on my PowerPoint, Jamie Ogborn. Same person. I'm the education chair this year, helping everyone get going with pathways. So thank you again for allowing me into your club. I am a very collaborative type person. So as we go, if you have questions, feel free to ask questions. I will let you know if we're getting to it at a later point in the presentation, but it's a lot easier for you if you can get your questions answered when we're in the topic. So don't hesitate to ask questions as we go. The context that I got for you guys is the fact that you're open to trying pathways. You just haven't had a chance to really figure out how it works or even how to talk to someone about what it is or how to get into it. So that's where my focus is going to be today is how do you talk to, I'm going to focus on new members, but this could mean existing members that just haven't gotten started. How do you talk about pathways? How do you get them started? How do you keep them going through their path? That's going to be my main focus, and then I'll expect that you'll be asking questions throughout as you have different questions along the way. Another piece of context for you is how I got started. I thought about when we started Pathways, there were some frustrating things. There were times where I'm like, how do I get back to the home screen? It doesn't go anywhere. And different frustrations that you guys have probably seen as well. And then my 8-year-old niece showed me a lot of the tricks. 8 years old, and she knew more about this than me, and she knows more about my cell phone than me, but it's because she's not afraid to try things out. She has lived in a world where she can click buttons all she wants, and if something breaks, she hands it to an adult and then they figure it out. We have grown up in a world where if something breaks, it's painful sometimes getting it fixed, so we're a little more hesitant to click on things than what, say, my 8-year-old niece is. What I found within Pathways is I have not seen anything that you couldn't fix by calling Toastmasters International. There are some things where if you submit a whole path, it takes some time to get it fixed, but there's nothing that you can't fix. So feel free to click away and try different things. That's going to be how you get confident in using the tools. So let's talk about pathways. If a new member comes in and you're talking about the value of your club, you're obviously going to have them see the meeting, right? You're going to have them see what that experience is going to look like, get to know the different members. That's a huge part of the value. Hopefully they try table topics. But then you're going to start talking about pathways. That's a big part of the value that you get out of Toastmasters is that education program that you're going through to help your public speaking skills. So that's how I'd explain it. Just like you explained the old path. Pathways is an educational program that has specific projects that you're going to work through to improve different aspects of your public speaking or leadership skills. There's 11 different paths available to people that have different focuses, whether your focus is leadership or communication or different aspects of your speaking. There's 11 different paths to choose from. When someone gets started, the first step is to get them to log in to Toastmasters International. Some older members, they don't remember their member ID or how to log in. That's pretty common. I typically would just use the chat. When you go to toastmasters.org, there's that chat that pops up. I would usually utilize them to help someone who's been a member for a long time get logged in for the first time. For new members, they get an email when they sign up that has their member ID, and most of them have given their email address. It's a lot easier once they get that email to hit the login and to set up their password, especially now that you don't really need the member ID if you gave your email. Like mine, it'll let me log in with my email now. Once you've logged in to Toastmasters International, there's one place that I want everyone to go. First of all, I want to show you, this is what it looks like, right? You have welcome in your name at the top. And then I'm going to direct everyone to Pathways and go to Basecamp. So I want you to think about it. If you're going to climb a mountain for the first time, it's very easy to go to REI and all of these outdoor stores trying to get all the resources. And it's very easy to miss stuff or get confused. This is the same, right? It gives you 6 different options that go to specific places. When you can go to the base camp at the mountain and get everything you need, including guides to help you along the way. This is the same way. So everyone that asks me how to get started, I tell them to click on Pathways and then go to Basecamp for anything that they need pathways. Once you click on that, initially you're only going to see two boxes. You'll see choose your path and the navigator. Once you've chosen a path, then you get that third option in the middle. So Luann talked about she had gone through the quiz. That's in the choose your path. And you can do the selection. You now have the option, if you have a member that's not as good with computers, you can work on behalf of another member. That is an option. I highly recommend, if they have the ability to do it themselves and you can walk them through, I highly recommend you do that so they can get used to clicking, because that's the key to remembering things, is actually doing, not being told. But you'll click on yourself or another member, continue to path selection. It will give the option to buy the printed materials. I believe it's 20 bucks if you wish, or you can do the online version. There is a place that I'll show you later that shows how you can print it out if you choose the online version, but for certain projects you want to print out the project. That is the route that most people choose within Pathways. And then it'll give you two options for selecting your path. There's taking the assessment or just choosing a path. I highly recommend taking the assessment, just because of the fact that a lot of people will choose paths based on the name, and then they'll get something different than what they expected or what they wanted. But choosing the assessment then gives you three path options, usually three, sometimes it's only one, based on the feedback that you've given the tool, saying these are the types of things that I'm not as confident in. That doesn't mean that you have to choose that path. If you get, say, a leadership path, but you really wanted to work on something that's more public speaking, or Luann mentioned humorous speaking, on the lower right, there's an option to see the other path options. It opens up all 11 options, and you can choose a different one if you wish. I also mentioned to Luann, if you choose a path and then get into it and see the projects and say, oh, this really wasn't what I was expecting, there is a certain period of time where if you contact Toastmasters International, they can take you out of that and you can select a different path. I'm not positive how long that is, but it's worth asking. Also note, for current members, when you do the new member, sign up as a new member, as part of that new member fee, you got a free path. So you already started with a path. If you haven't already selected it, go ahead and select it. As an existing member that's renewing this year, you get a second free path from Toastmasters International as an incentive for renewing your membership with Toastmasters. So if you didn't take advantage of that, also go in and grab another path. It's really helpful having multiple paths to work through. So if you're like me, I'm at level one of them. I just started. I got my free one. I paid $20 for an extra one last year. Because I was in level 2 of 1 and I was doing things like the mentorship program and learning your communication styles, and I wanted to do a different speech. So that second path allowed me to start in level 1 and have more flexibility with the speeches I was doing. So having multiple paths allows you to be in different places at different times. So that's what I have on choosing your path. Any questions on that piece as you're helping new members get started? Nope. Okay. So then the next step is getting someone into Basecamp. If you have multiple clubs, you'll see on mine it says One Voice Club and then it has the drop down. That's because I have 2 other clubs, so I can select which club I'm working under for a project. That really determines if you finish a level and you need it approved, the club that's selected, those are the officers that are going to get that approval request. And then if you're just a member, you're going to have this login as a member. If you're a Basecamp manager, so a club president, VP of education, or secretary, you'll also have this Basecamp manager option. These are 2 different parts of the tool. One is your member portion where you get to go through your projects. The other one is for approval and reports for your club. So they're totally different sections of the tool. We're going to focus on if you logged in as a member. Once you get in there, it's going to look something like this. There is a nice tutorial video on the right side for people that want to see it before clicking on things. This is a good place to start. But otherwise, you can start clicking in things. Like I said, you can't really screw anything up that can't be fixed. So the first thing I'm going into is the paths in learning, the education transcript. If you go in there, this is going to show any paths that you're already signed up for. For this one, you can see this is your initial thing, and then if you scroll down, you're going to see any further context. That's another trick when you're using pathways. When you're not seeing what you're expecting to see, scroll down. Oftentimes there's a lot of extra fluff up at the top, and then you have to scroll down to get what you're actually looking for. So this is going to show any paths. You'll see both of the two paths that I had at the time when I created this deck. At that time, I was working on the active listening project, so I had that evaluation resource up, and then the navigator is always there. Any pieces that you had opened do stay here. So say you start your project, you open up the evaluation resource, and then you start working on your speech. You can easily go back into your transcript and click on that to get the evaluation resource when you're wanting to send it to your evaluator. It's just a convenience thing for you. When you want to get it out of that page, you would just click Mark Complete on the right side. It's very easy. Then as you're trying to get into the paths, you're just going to click Open Curriculum.
Yeah, over here.
And then you get into the path. This is where I was at with my dynamic leadership at the time. I had done the researching and presenting ahead of time. I didn't follow the normal process.
Right.
I did the check mark. That's how you know you've completed that project within the path. And you can see in here, I've already done the evaluation and feedback piece, or I've started it at that point. So anytime you're trying to open, you're going to launch or hit activate to open it up and launch it. Once you open it up, you always start with this navigation piece. This is just for your information. I always recommend for the first couple times, you're going to use these arrows on the left and right to navigate. I would just go through the whole thing and see what the project entails. After you've done a couple of them, you'll see they're the same basic format every time. And then you can use this drop down at the bottom to move to specific pages at specific times.
Back to another section.
So the way this works is it starts with a self-evaluation. It's just usually, I think, 5 questions, just helping you evaluate how you're feeling before you start the project. Then you get into all of the project resources, and at the end, there's going to be another self-evaluation of how you felt at the end. You're never actually having to prove that you did a speech. This is all for your information, your own purposes. This will get marked complete regardless of even if you did a speech, right? It's if you went through the project and finished that second evaluation. So that gets a lot of people confused. Once you're done with that second evaluation, you're going to click next and you're going to get the completed screen. And it'll say congratulations. It just happens, and it's actually kind of nerve-wracking, but it ends up working out. You will see several people who will accidentally submit it, not realizing that hitting that next button actually submits it. You can still get into that project until you've approved that path. So I would just recommend if anyone does that to just go back into their project, finish it for their purposes, but then leave it at that. I wouldn't actually feel like you need to correct that. Another thing to note in here, on one of the first pages, going to see the your assignment. This is where, for someone who chose the online portion, you can actually print the project. For someone that maybe you're going on a plane ride, not right now, but after COVID, maybe you're going on a plane ride and you'd like the printed materials to work on your project. You can click that view and it's going to open up a PDF for you. Any questions so far as going through a project?
So Jamie, I have a question. You're probably going to get to this, but if you go back under the launch there's a drop-down menu that talks about move to archive transcript. And is that coming up? And if you do that, you lose access. It says you're going to lose. What does that mean? What is an archive transcript?
That is a good question. I honestly have never tried that. It's not something that you need to go through your path. I think it's just if you want this off of this page that kind of cleans up your page. I personally would not use that, at least until we've had people that have tried that out and know what that is. But it's really nice to be able to go back into a project if you ever screwed it up, where if you archive it, you can't. It just marks it that you've done it and that's it.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Good
And then
question.
the other question, I just want to back up a little. The $20 is only for the hard copy. Is that right?
So
Or
there's a couple different fees to think about. Like, you get an initial path as part of what you paid for with your membership. That's free, right? You've already paid for it. If you want additional above and beyond your original one and that benefit of renewing, I believe it's $20 for an additional path. I can't remember for sure. And then there's an additional fee if you want to have a printed copy, which I believe is about $20.
okay.
I have one question, Jamie.
Yes.
If at some point along this presentation, would you kindly tell us what those 11 paths are, or at least show a printed copy of that? That would be really helpful, not only for current members, but also for new members.
This is good. And this is something we can send as a follow-up as well. But let's go here. I'm just going to search Masters has, see what comes up. So here it's going to have Pathways Overview. And actually, there's several images here. We don't even have to go to Toastmasters.com. These are the first 10, though. These don't include the additional. But there's several resources. I always just search for Toastmasters and then whatever I'm searching for. And then if I'm still having issues, then I'll reach out to someone. Here we go. How do I make this smaller? Here we go. So those are the current paths, and this is just on the Toastmasters International website. There are some brochures, like I said, that I can forward on to you guys as well for new members. We have it, I think all of my clubs have 2 one-pagers about, one just shows the different projects, and then one shows kind of the competencies that are tied to the different paths, and we put those in our new member packet. Good question.
I have a question. Luann has a question.
Yep.
Jamie, you said you don't really have to go in and mark that you've completed these things when you're on a path?
So
Is
you
there
have to mark it.
a way of tracking that you've completed the whole thing, or how do you
So
do that so then when you submit it for completion, somebody knows you've actually did them?
good question and good clarification. So it's all on your honor. It's not like you have to bring a book and get initials saying that you've done it or upload the evaluation sheet. When you
Oh.
go in, you're going to do that second self-evaluation. And then when you hit next, that's what marks it complete. So you are marking it complete. You just don't have to upload the evaluation or show proof that you've completed it.
So when you mark it complete, that's complete for the whole path or the whole, not just one speech, second speech, third speech,
So
or,
you do it by speech.
oh, you do, okay.
Yep. And then once you get, if we go back here, you'll see these check marks as you do it. Once all of them are checked,
Oh, yeah, okay.
level 1 completion or whatever level the completion, it will have a launch on the right side. And then you'll be able to mark that to mark the path or the level complete.
Oh, okay, got it.
Once you mark that level complete, that's when the Basecamp managers get the email.
Okay.
I do, as a best practice, always recommend when you've launched that, when you've marked that level complete, I always just email the Basecamp manager saying, hey, FYI, I've completed this level. You should be seeing an email to go in and approve that. Just in case they miss it or it hits their junk mail, or maybe I did it wrong. The first time I did it wrong and they didn't see it, so they could tell me, hey, something's going wrong here.
And is that Basecamp management person part of Toastmasters International?
This is your club. So it's your club president, your VP,
Oh,
and then your secretary.
okay, got it.
Good question. Okay. The other piece I wanted to talk about is just the projects themselves. All of the projects have a similar flow. You'll have some materials, some type of education. Sometimes it's like the icebreaker, it's more education around doing a speech and how to put one together. Sometimes it's more of a leadership project that you'll do or some education that you'll do. And there's typically, I think there's always at least one speech attached to each project that you'll do and get evaluated on. Within those, as you get into certain projects, you're going to feel like there isn't as much flexibility. A good example of this is the mentoring project. The whole purpose of the mentoring project is to give you education around what coaching and mentoring are, and then have you reflect on what that means for you. Either how you can help others through mentoring, maybe coaching your club on mentoring, or maybe it's sharing an example of when you were a protege. And a lot of people think, oh, I need to do a speech on this project. Well, I don't want to do a speech on this project, but it's not, right? When I did my mentoring speech, it was for an open house, right? They said, hey, can you do a speech about what you've gotten out of Toastmasters? And that happened to be the one project I needed to finish level 2. And I said, I think I can make this work because one of the best things I got out of Toastmasters was the mentoring relationship when I first got started, right? So I made that project fit what I wanted to talk about at the time. So that's something too that you will often, as a club as a whole, get a lot of people who are stuck on different things. Like, I can't do a speech because this is the project and I don't know what to talk about. Let's be creative and help each other think about, okay, here's your project. What do you want to talk about? How do these tie together? That's going to be something that you're going to see quite a bit. And hopefully in officer trainings, we'll start working on getting to that point where we can have discussions and learn how to do that brainstorming. Okay, so now that we've shown how to mark things complete, you have the project, we're going to go back to the main page. When you click on home, this is a big frustration. It doesn't go anywhere. It brings up a drop down, and home is the one piece in the drop down. So this is something you're going to hear a lot, and you're probably going to feel a lot. If you haven't been in there a lot, you have to hover over it, and then when the drop down comes, click on the home in the drop down. So if you get anyone that says, I can't get to the home page, that is more than likely their frustration and complaint. Once you go back to the home page, this is what it looks like once again. The next thing I'm going to show you is the speech evaluations. All of the evaluations are in your project, but I have learned, I started by just making sure I open the evaluation when I'm working on the project. And then later I started getting lazy, and right before the speech, it's, ooh, I need to send my evaluation out. So I log in and I go to speech evaluations. As per usual, you get a bunch of fluff at the top and you're not going to see the evaluations. This is the second biggest complaint I see is, where the heck do I find stuff? When in doubt, scroll down. And then there's all of the evaluations within Pathways. If you scroll, there's even more. They're in alphabetical order from top to bottom, left to right. So it's somewhat easy to find. The one thing to be mindful of is some of these have words at the front, like mentoring. It's actually advanced mentoring. Well, there's two projects actually. Some of the storytellings, they start with connect. So if you're not finding the project that you're looking for, try to see if the person can tell you the specific name on their project so that you can find that sheet. But if you're an evaluator, you can go in and pull this. If you're the one doing the project, you can go in and pull this up, and it pulls up a PDF that you can send out or utilize and fill in. Going back to the home screen, there's also a tutorials and resources. This is something that people have said, hey, that's not very good. It's not worth our time. They have actually updated this. The deck is said updated mid-2020 because sometime this summer, they've made some really good upgrades to the site to make it simpler, including the tutorials. There's several videos and PDF tutorials here that are actually a lot better than what they originally rolled out. Also, if you're looking for tutorials, just search on YouTube. That's how I've learned a lot of things, where by clicking I couldn't figure it out. I just searched YouTube, either Toastmasters or Pathways, and whatever I was looking for. And a lot of Toastmasters have done videos for projects of different pieces, either for projects or to help their clubs or districts. Lastly, if you're on that homepage and you scroll down, there's some additional things. There's some quick links instead of having to go into your transcript to get into different things you've recently opened. There's also the My Feedback, My Badges, and My Documents. The My Feedback and My Documents essentially get you to the same place. And then My Badges is a nice thing. If you're a check the box or sticker type person, it kind of give you milestone badges, similar to like how your Fitbit would as you hit different milestones, which is kind of cool. We're going to go into the My Feedback. This is what it looks like. There's a couple of different things within here. Some clubs have used this to do the electronic feedback piece where you can email a feedback request to members and then they can fill it out and email it back to you. Completely optional, hit or miss. Some people like it, some people don't, but you can definitely try it out. There's Paths in Learning that brings you back to your transcript, and then there's ePortfolio. ePortfolio is where you can store. If you're the type where you're like, I like to store all of my evaluations, maybe the outlines of my speeches, or maybe even just a summary of the speeches that I've done, this is where you can do it within Pathways. You would click on ePortfolio and you'd click on Documents. And then it's going to look similar to your folders within your documents on your computer. You can file it within the different levels or within My Documents. There's really no difference whether you save it on your computer or in here. It's just some people have so much going on, it's easier to do it in here and have this in its own place that's easy to find. So that's all I have for a tutorial. I just want to kind of recap some of the resources. Your Basecamp Manager and tutorials within Pathways is really good, something that you can use. I've used YouTube a lot, other Toastmasters, especially if it's not how to, but it's more like what kind of speech would fit for this project, or what does this look like after you've finished your path. We have several Toastmasters that have already completed their DTMs and Pathways. As we get going, the club president and VP of education, they're going to typically be the first to pick this up. One, because they get the most questions, but two, because they're going to see this in officer trainings as well. Same with your area director. They get even more training as an area director on some of these things. And then you also have Toastmasters International, and they also have a Facebook page of Toastmasters. So we've gone through this pretty fast. I didn't get a lot of questions throughout. Is there anything that we either went too fast or that we didn't go through that you have questions on?
Is it required that you work Path when you're in Toastmasters? Can you just show up for the entertainment and camaraderie?
Very good question. This is, Toastmasters is for you. There are guidelines. We do hope you do speeches, not only for the quality of the club meetings. Speeches definitely make more entertainment quality in the meetings, and then also, the growth for you, right? If you're just coming to watch, you're not going to grow as much as someone that's coming and doing projects. But it is completely to you. I have clubs where there's people that's what they want out of the club, and that's okay. And then there's people like me, I joined because there were specific things I wanted to grow in. If I just sat and watched, I wouldn't stay very long. I'm not one to just sit. Well, I wouldn't even say sit, right? There's a lot of networking that you get out of it, but I would be looking for a place where I could get networking and growth just because of where I'm at in my career, in my life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't mind. I loved in the speeches and all that, but as far as being an officer or doing some high level, organizational piece of the, at that stage, I'm not quite, ready to do that. And so, I think they prompt you in some places to, that's part of some of these projects, especially in that leadership one. I thought that was some encouragement to, be a secretary or be this or be that.
There is. And that's part of, right, if you're wanting to grow in leadership, that's the best way to get some of those skills is to be an officer. So that makes sense. I would say if you can't switch that path, make it work for you and what you want out of Toastmasters. Yes, there's guidelines, there's rules, but at the end of the day, you're going through this path for your own development. Make it work for your own development. There's no one double checking until you get to the DTM. Obviously, you can't get those until you've actually hit some of those metrics. But if you're not here to get a DTM, don't feel like you need to need to be here to get a DTM. That's not the purpose. This is really all for what do you want out of Toastmasters.
Thank you.
Yeah. One thing to think about though is clubs cannot stay afloat if there aren't members helping lead the club, and it really is a leader in every chair type thing. So even if that's not your goal for growth, still be mindful of what your club needs to keep things moving forward as well. I've seen a lot of clubs fold because everyone just wants to come and enjoy the club and no one wants to lead. But then I've had one that we went through a tough year last year and the beginning of this year, but we're starting to see that, and I've brought it up of like, hey, I can't lead the club. I cannot be the president and the VP of PR and the VP of membership. We have a good VP of education. So I've asked that everyone take a piece of the puzzle, right? Someone take our Facebook page. I'll keep doing the website. That's fine. That's a pain in the butt. Okay, fine. Someone took the president role, and then everyone took a little piece of the puzzle, and that took a lot off of my plate, off of the VP of Education's plate, to where it's feasible for everyone to do.
Okay.
Good
I
question.
have a question, Amy. Can you please explain, especially for our newest members, what DTM stands for?
Yeah,
And also,
thank you.
can you indicate what pace the members should progress on their paths? Is it generally up to the member is it kind of work at your own pace type of thing?
Good question. So DTM stands for Distinguished Toastmaster. That's the highest award that we have for members outside of the leadership roles that they can take on. In the old path, it took about 53 speeches. You had to be an area director, so you had to help 4 to 5 other clubs. And then you had to take on an officer role and coach either a new club or a club that's struggling. So there's a lot that goes into it, but you get a lot of experience, and it's really nice to be able to say that you've earned that Distinguished Toastmaster. Everyone recognizes the amount of work that you've put in. As far as the pace for this, everyone's different. The fastest I've seen was getting it in 6 months. I thought that was insane, but that's, I think, the fastest you can do because you have to be an officer for at least 6 months. So this person was an officer in her club. She was coaching a club, and she was our district's VP of PR, all in the same 6 months while working through 50 some speeches. It was insane. I took 8 years to get my DTM. There's several people that have been in Toastmasters for 20 plus years and don't have it. It's all on your own pace. And there's several people that never get it. It's just not their goal, which is completely fine.
And another follow-up question, and working on a particular pathway, I just wanted to confirm that members can work at their own pace there as well, correct?
Correct. There is some guidance around the levels. Let's go back to, here we go, this page. So when you get into it, there's 5 levels in each path. You have to start with level 1, get that approved from the base camp managers before you can start level 2. But it's at your own pace, right? If you want to do a speech a week, great. If you want to do a speech a year, it's great. It's whatever works best for you.
Thank you.
Good question.
So Jamie, we didn't talk about the higher levels, and because no one's there yet, but you get into from what I've seen, you get into some longer speeches, right? 10 to 15 minute speeches. How typically are those handled? Some of them might even be longer. How do clubs handle that?
Good question. There's two different ways I've seen it, three different ways I've seen it handled. Some people, if their personal goal isn't to get better at doing longer, more involved speeches, some people just modify the project to fit what they're personally looking for. The second thing is some clubs will do like today, right? You, instead of doing the normal meeting structure, we're doing this training. So you may just adjust the meeting structure to fit the speech that someone needs to do, and you just make it work with the meeting. The third thing is you can do speeches outside of your club. You want to limit it to some extent. You want to make sure there's a Toastmaster evaluating you so you get the benefits of, getting that evaluation. But I've done probably at least a quarter of my speeches in officer trainings and Toastmasters Leadership Institutes. They're trainings that we do for Toastmasters and things like this. I technically should have had one of you evaluate me and done this as a project. I just wasn't prepared to do that. But that's typically where I've gotten those bigger projects done, was during some of those extra things within the district.
So just to the rule still is, all you need is a written evaluation by a Toastmaster. And
That's what you're supposed to have, but you've seen already, I've showed you, you don't really need that to get approved, to approve and say I've done the project.
It's on the honor system. Someone was there.
Correct.
A Toastmaster has to be there.
Yeah, I have personally seen people who didn't. They're like, oh, I have this speech at work. I'm going to use this for this project. And they've decided that, okay, I'm not going to really go through the formal evaluation process. They're the ones losing out because they're not getting that formal written and verbal evaluation for their project. It's all based on what you want out of Toastmasters. Good question. Let's talk a little bit about some of the paths. Let me see if I can actually, let's go to this evaluation page and let's talk about some of these projects. Here we go. So here's at least some of the evaluations. If someone was doing the ethical leadership project, if I understand this correctly, there's some training involved, right? It goes over some different ethical things that you need to think about and that come up within leadership. And then you do a speech. So let's go, let's do kind of table topics. Gary, if you had a member saying, I have to do this ethical leadership project, I have no idea what to talk about, what are some thoughts that you have that they could talk about? What did a normal person, not necessarily in a leadership role, what are some things that may pertain to ethics that they'd be open to speaking about?
Thank you. I would probably look on the internet for articles from experts in that field about ethical leadership. Another resource might be the public library that I might pull some information from. And another resource might be my own thoughts about the topic. I think melding those three resources together, I think I could put together a good speech for that.
Thank you. Good. I also think about everyone's had experiences with very ethical companies that they really were proud to work for. And I feel like everyone's probably worked for a company where they kind of question the company's ethics or even managers' ethics. So you can always do a story about that too, of experiences that you've had. Or maybe even for yourself, what America, that's a great topic right now, right? Everyone's questioning some of the ethics and different things going on in America. And then there's always some good things going on as well. So you can make this based on what you want it to be. It can be a research project, or it can be based on a story or experience that you've had, or an opinion that you have. Good, thank you, Gary, awesome. Let's talk about leading your team. This project is one that actually a member of one of my clubs is going through. You have to do some sort of a project where you have to put together a team and lead that team through something. He's doing it for officer training. He's setting it up. He's putting together different people. Instead of one person doing a 3-hour training, we're adding several people. And he was stuck. He's like, how do I do a speech about it, right? I put it together and I say what I did. And we talked about what he wants to work on within his path, and he wants to work on networking, getting to know more people with different experiences. So for this, his speech is going to be about how he's met some of the different people to put together this training and why these people were key resources in the training. That just fit his personal goals and what he wanted out of the speech. Ken, do you have any other ideas that someone could use when they have a project like that?
Wait, which one? Wait, which one?
The leading your team.
Oh,
the
yes.
requirement is you put together a team to work through some sort of a project, and then you have to do a speech.
Yes. Actually, I was mentoring with somebody from another club, and it was an answer similar to what Gary mentioned, you know, the resources. And I think Pathways references the online resources as well as your personal experiences. And then throughout, you're getting just about everybody in is, or there's at least one or two people in every club that's doing the leadership path. So you already get information from previous speeches, and you already have other people in the club that you can go to. So yeah, that's where I go.
That's good. I've also seen people talk about different projects they've been on in the past, and they've talked about either a challenging project that they've had to work through or a project that they really enjoyed, how they got in touch with that project and what they've gotten out of it. So you can kind of make it what you want it to be. And honestly, if you did a totally different speech, no one would question. It's just what you're getting out of the project. Another one I want to talk about is a fun one. I don't think it's this understanding conflict resolution. I think it's further down in the list, but there's one where you're handling a difficult audience. In this speech, I believe it's the Toastmaster or VP of Education has a list of different characters that they're going to assign to different members of the club. Typically, it's like someone that's talking on the side, someone that's interrupting, someone that's arguing with you, just different difficult things that you could get in a presentation within a team. And your goal is, you know, those people are going to be interrupting your presentation, and you're going to see how you did at mitigating the distractions. There's two reasons why people get frustrated with this. One is it is weird being the character, being that rude person. It's opposite of what we try to teach in Toastmasters. And I always coach people to have fun with it, right? Be that character. Everyone knows that that's what the speech is. It's the funnest speech I have ever seen in Toastmasters because we all know that we're doing it to help someone develop, and we can really have fun with it and make fun of some of the characters that we see other places in our lives. The second thing that people say is, well, how do you do that online? You know, there's no one having side conversations because they're in their own silo and all you see is their video. We've talked about, could you create your own characters? What are some annoying things that happen in Zoom? Maybe people picking up their computer and walking. Maybe people not being muted. That's a common one. People having distracting videos. So it's having that member think about what are some of the distractions that are frustrating when we're in this virtual environment that I would like to practice mitigating. And then that's the character that you're going to assign to the different people. And then that speech can be whatever you want it to be, right? It could be a story, it could be a research project, whatever you want that speech to be. The whole purpose is you figuring out how to manage that difficult audience that you may be in front of at some point. So I've given you a couple examples. Have any of you come up with a speech that you had to do and wondered, what the heck am I supposed to talk about? Or how am I supposed to use this? Gary's thinking. I
I do like
don't.
example, Jamie, about talking when you're kind of at a crossroads where you can't think of something to talk about, when you can't come up with ideas of a topic, to be creative, think outside the box and look around, maybe some of your experiences in life. And sometimes those are the most fun things as an audience to listen to, someone's personal experience where they had an issue, they had a conflict somewhere in their lives, and how they dealt with it and how they mastered that situation. So being creative, just thinking outside the box is a great, based upon your own personal experiences, is a great way to really build on a speech and then deliver it.
That's awesome. I've done a training before on how to come up with speech topics, and I got people thinking about it when you're walking into the office and you're doing that normal networking. Hey, how was your weekend? What have you been up to? What do you talk about? And I've coached people to write it down every day and then start, looking at what are those things that you're talking about with your friends, family, coworkers on a daily basis. Your club probably wants to hear some of that as well. I've also coached people to think about what does the club need? Like this year, there's a lot of people doing speeches around pathways. That's a great speech topic that applies in several different areas that you can do. How to evaluate, that's something people are always asking for tips on. What are some other pieces? Mentoring, different roles within Toastmasters. So anything that you've heard people say, I'd really love to learn more about this, that's a great speech idea if you're not as creative. I'm not the creative one. I typically go towards training and things that people request. But I also have my journal that says, here are all of the topics that, stories that I've told others that I can bring into speeches as well. Good. I do want to spend a minute on the Basecamp managers. This is another piece. If our Basecamp managers don't know their role, people can't move forward with their levels. So we're going to talk about that for a minute. Basecamp manager. So we'll start with who the Basecamp managers are. There's 3 Basecamp managers in the club: the president, the VP of education, and the secretary. There's specific reasons for this. The president is responsible for all club members and club business, which means they need to understand what's going on in the pathways world. The VP of education is really in charge of helping people move forward with their education. And then the secretary is charged with maintaining club records. So all of these kind of fit within making sure these levels are approved and making sure we understand where people are at. I do have a short list of duties. You're the main people that if someone has a level that they've finished, you're going to go in and approve it. You're going to get emails for this. Hopefully you're willing to assist members who need help with pathways or maybe need to get it printed. And then you're also hopefully monitoring club achievement in the dashboards within Basecamp Manager. It's very easy to get in. You log in, you go to Pathways and go to Basecamp just like anything else with Pathways. Instead of logging in as a member, you're going to log in as Basecamp Manager. Then there are several things in here. I haven't spent much time on all of the different resources, but the big one is understanding how to use pending requests. If there's a request in there, you're going to see this line. And then I kind of made this bigger so you can see on the right side, you have a checkbox that you can check or you can decline. Easy rule of thumb, if you haven't seen any speeches from that person and you see something, just send them a quick email, phone call, text, and just say, hey, I saw the request to approve this path. Did you really complete it and intend to submit it to me? They'll let you know if they didn't. It's all on their honor. Some people accidentally, because it's so easy to mark it complete, it go through and don't realize that they're actually closing out that level. Most people, though, it's not going to be an issue and you'll go in and approve. You can put some context like approved by so-and-so and what role. Some people like if you put the different speech and projects that they've done. I wouldn't push for that. If they send it in the email, I would copy and paste it. If they don't, I wouldn't worry about it. And then you can hit submit. So that's pretty simple to do. The other piece is under member progress, not under pending requests. You can also pull up individual people to see their progress, or you can, so I kind of went in, you can search for the person, open up their transcript, and you can print off, you can see where they're at, but you can also print off certificates for any completed levels that look something like this, which is kind of nice. Or you can see the progress. You can see at the club level the different paths that people are in or the different levels that they've completed, and you can pull that into Excel. And it looks something like that. The other piece you need to think about, there are some tutorials in here, but you're not done yet. Once you've approved a level, you need to go into Club Central and mark it as completed for the club. So when you go into Toastmasters, instead of going into Pathways, you're going to go to Leadership Central. And then you're going to go to Club Central. You're going to submit Education Awards and select the project. I don't have screenshots for it because it's specific people, but you'll select the person and the project and submit it for Club Central. This allows you to track the progress in your club. This gives you that Distinguished Club program. It shows you how many people have completed levels for your club, how many new members you have, how many officers trained, just to understand the health of your club. Any questions on, I know that was very quick, and I will give you this PowerPoint, but any questions on that role?
I have just one on this slide that's up, Club Central. Under the submit payment, is that where you can go pay your dues online?
If you're an officer, you can pay your
Oh.
dues online.
Not for just a member?
Correct. Hopefully someday we will get that access, but as of today, just the officers can submit payments for themselves or other members.
Okay.
Good question. Good. Awesome. Any other questions from you guys or any concerns that you have with Pathways or helping new members?
One of the things I'd like to add is I know everybody's on their own at search, but we kind of, or me, I guess, as VP of Education, suggested that everyone do 4 speeches a year. So that means part of you kept mentioning progress, part of that is you can record progress. It shows that you've done something. So now, oh, I had a lot of fun. What do I have to show for it? You have something to show for it. I've completed level 1. I'm moving to level 2, which is more advanced speeches. And as I said, once you get into 4 and 5, there's some longer involved projects. So we only have 1 speech per meeting. There are other clubs that have longer meetings that have more speeches. So if you're interested in giving 10 speeches a year or whatever, to a couple or 12, it could be 3 pathways, well, you probably want to, I don't want us to leave, but there are other clubs that will accommodate you. But we're in the realm of 1 speech per meeting, which gives every member a chance to do 4. Some are going to do more than that, some are going to do less, but that's our guideline. So hopefully that helps. And of course, we get club recognition for doing that.
A couple of things too with that. If like for me, when they put the deadline on to get the Distinguished Toastmaster in the old program, I had a ways to go. But I was like, I'm not doing all this work and not getting the DTM. So I joined additional clubs to get more opportunities for speeches, but also without even joining clubs, there's plenty of opportunities within Minnesota to do speeches. The district, so Minneapolis and South, and then there's a district for St. Paul and North, they have a ton of things outside of clubs that they need speeches for. Right now, they're trying to get all of the officers trained, and officer training is 3 hours. You don't want to see one person speak for 3 hours. You'd rather see some different experts. The area directors are looking for people to take on different pieces of the officer training. So that's a great opportunity, especially if you have a big project. Several times a year, we have conferences and Toastmaster Leadership Institutes. We call them TLIs. Same thing. We try to get different speakers for those. And then other clubs, right? Not everyone's coming to Toastmasters wanting to do speeches. There are clubs that are struggling getting speakers. So if you're looking, you're like, hey, I need to do more speeches. Are there any other clubs that really need more people to speak within their club? Typically your area director can get you connected with another club that's open to you coming in as a guest speaker, even though you're not a member of their club. So there's some other things too, if you're wanting to do more or you want to do a longer speech or a longer project that you can do. Good context. Awesome. Anything else I can help with right now? Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you guys all for joining. I know I took up the entire hour, but I really appreciate you guys taking the time. If you ever have any questions, feel free to let me know, and also reach out to other Toastmasters. There's a ton of people that can help.
Thank you, Jamie. This is very helpful.